Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Changed My Life. This is your host, Ryan Warner. My guest today is Clay the Carpenter Guida. He's the former Strikeforce World Champion. He has wins over Nate Diaz, Anthony Petis and RDA. And best of all, folks, he's a former wrestler. One of my all-time favorite conversations. I greatly appreciate the Carpenter taking time out of his training to do this interview. Fan of the week is Bart Mazer, listening in from Frostburg, Maryland. The state of Kyle Snyder. I don't think the home of Kyle Snyder, but I know he's from Maryland. Bart, thank you for listening, my friend. Greatly appreciated. Last but not least, folks, I'm releasing 2 new audio documentaries, one in June, one in July. The June documentary will cover the Matt Kukala, Eric Tannenbaum 2001 state finals. Anyone from Illinois knows this is by far the most talked about matchup in Illinois finals history, and we're doing an in-depth look at that match. That'll be going live on Tuesday, June 30th, and then in July, we'll be releasing the Fab Four, which covers the 2014 season of the Oak Park River Forest Huskies and their coach, the legendary Mike Powell. So Fab Four is in July, Tannenbaum Kukala is in June. That's it, folks. Let's give it up for Clay the Carpenter Guida. Peace! First of all, Clay Guida, the Carpenter, long time coming, man. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Yep, I'm out here in Sacramento.
Training camp?
Yes, sir. We just got some great news, and I might as well spill it here first, man, if you guys don't mind.
Hit it.
Yeah, we just signed a fight against Bobby Green June 20th in Vegas on a UFC fight night. So a week from this Saturday, man, it's game time. Back to Vegas for our 30th UFC fight, man. A milestone fight. I think there's only a small handful of guys that have 30 bouts in UFC. So we're about to join the Dirty 30 club, man. And we couldn't be happier. We love the matchup. And I just wanted to break the news here with you guys. So I guess you could say this is your little press release.
I'm honored, man. Congratulations. I'm really excited to see you back in there. Not that you can predict the future, but are you back in for a couple more years here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we haven't gone anywhere. It's just been so hard to book fights, obviously as of late.
Yeah.
And we fought last August, so it's been a little while. But, man, we're always hungry to get in there and compete, you know. And I say this quite often because people ask me all the time about my longevity in the sport, and you know what I mean. The durability and the length that I've been, fighting, not just in UFC, but my whole mixed martial arts career. And I tell you what, I'm 38 years old now, and I'm in better shape now than I was 21. I'm in better shape than when I was 25, and I feel just incredible. The body heals faster. Just smarter ways of training. Making sure I, rest properly, eat properly, diet, training. Our coaches keep a very close eye on us. And, we're here for the long haul, man. I can't wait. This is actually going to be the last fight on our UFC contract, which is interesting. That'll be the first time that happens because they usually always renegotiate before your last fight because they don't want you to be a free agent. So, man, the ball's in my court, just how we like it, man.
Love it, dude. Love it. Test the market. Dude, it's crazy to think that it all started back in Ottawa, Illinois, when your brother was fighting and someone couldn't, you were in the crowd, someone didn't show up for a weigh-in and you go, I'll go in there. Is that how it all started?
You did your homework, man. It all started at a strip club, as a matter of fact, called the Silver Slipper in Ottawa, Illinois, which is pretty ironic, man. And I had just got off a fishing boat in Alaska because everyone knows how much of an avid fisherman I am today. But before I started fighting professionally, I was a professional fisherman. I was working on a 200-foot commercial trawler, so a 200-foot processing ship out in the Bering Sea. And my mom and dad would write me letters because obviously, being that far out, thousands of miles offshore, you have no phone service. And mom wrote me a letter, and it says, she goes, your brother is doing this NHB. That's when they call it, that was like almost before MMA, and that stood for no holds barred for people who don't know what that means. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And she said, he's training with these guys, Gilbert Grappling. I was like, oh, okay, I wonder if that was Joey Gilbert, who's been one of my heroes forever. You know what I mean? One of arguably the all-time greatest wrestler in Illinois, first four-timer in 2A. So, yeah, anyway, I came back after finishing a contract out on one of our trips. Me and my buddies were heading down to Ottawa, Illinois to watch my brother have his first professional fight against a former UFC veteran, Adrian Serrano, who fought in like the single-digit UFCs. I think he fought in like UFC 8. You know what I mean? So we're going back a ways, man. And we parked in the parking lot. Well, we roll up with this cornfield, first of all. We're in the middle of nowhere. And you know the area. Central Illinois, man. There is nothing but corn everywhere. You're surrounded by it. And all of a sudden, we see this big pole barn. And on the marquee, it's got sparkly lights around it. And we're like, oh, my goodness. We see the sign. The shiny sign says the Silver Slipper. And we just look at each other. We start laughing, high-fiving. We're like, this is going to be even more epic than we thought, man. And it was just one of those gnarly Midwest hot summers. It was the end of July, sweltering heat, at least 95 degrees, you know what I mean? Super hot. And we got out of the truck, and we saw the ring was outside. So the fights were going to be outdoors. And we see these ring cars, these cars bopping around. We're like, what in the heck? And then we see these, beautiful women walking around with them in the ring. We're like, oh, this is crazy. And they had just a little aluminum bleachers, and all of a sudden, we pay our ticket. Our admission fee was like $10. And all of a sudden, not even over a speaker, over a megaphone, we hear this guy, we need a fill-in fighter or exhibition fighter for about, I don't know, anywhere between 155 and 175 pounds to fill in. So come on up to the front table and give me your bio, your info. We'll get you in a ring. I slammed a beer, gave my ticket to my buddy, his ticket stuff. I'm like, yo, dude, I'm doing this, man. And he's like, of course you are. And I went right to my brother, or I went right to the head table first. I started filling out my stuff. And the organization was called the Silverback Classic, and it was run by Phil Johns, who was also an Illinois wrestler. I believe he was a state placer, and he was real tough back in the day. And he fought in the early UFCs as well. So this was a non-sanctioned event. And so he's at the table. He's like, what's your name? I'm like, Guida. He's like, oh, you're Jason's the main event. I'm like, yeah, man. He's like, all right, did you get his permission? I'm like, no, was I supposed to? He's like, yeah, go on, man. You got to go make sure they're even going to allow you to, to fight. I'm like, wow, shit, whatever. So I run up to my brother right away. I start back. I'm like, Jay, dude, they need a fill-in for a fight. You know what I mean? They just called, like, I'm ready to go. And I had wrestled at Harper College, so I had a wrestling background, wrestling pedigree. And just got off this fishing boat. I was full of piss and vinegar, just, pumped to get in there and show off for everybody, dude. Show I'm the Alaskan barbarian, man. It's got like this stuff too easy, man. Come on. And he's like, dude, you're out of your mind. He's like, you're crazy. He's like, this ain't just wrestling, man. He's like, you get kicked in the head, you get punched in the face. You know what I mean? It's no joke. You got to train properly, I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. Come on. So am I in or no? He's like, no, dude, absolutely not. I'm like, all right, cool. See you later. So I run over to Joey Gilbert. I run over to Danny Gilbert, John Gorecki, Tommy Lee, all these Illinois badasses. I'm like, hey, guys. And they didn't know who I was, except they heard that I was fishing out in Alaska. They heard Guida's little brother was crazy. He was just, living in the Bering Sea. And I'm like, hey, they need an exhibition fight. Let's go. Look, I want to do this. And they're like, dude, you got to talk to your brother. I'm like, yeah, he's not all for it. You know what I mean? They're like, sorry, bud. So then I went to my dad. My dad was there. And I'm like, yo, Pop, I'm getting in the ring, dude. This is gonna be awesome. They need an exhibition. He's like, sure, you need your ass kicked. You know what I mean? Kind of a little punk. So then I finally just begged and pleaded with my brother Jason, and he finally just kind of broke. And he's like, all right, dude, go for it. Whatever happens, happens. And there was I was fighting this guy, Adam Copenhaver or something like that, and he had like 8 pro fights. So since it wasn't sanctioned, they shouldn't even have allowed this fight to happen, because this guy was a pro, I was an amateur, he was a striker, I was a wrestler. So it was kind of going back to the roots of MMA, where it used to be single martial arts. You know what I mean? This guy was a kickboxer. All I knew was wrestling. And dude, the best, I tell you what, I went out there, I had a bandana on, dude, a camo bandana. I had my I had my skateboarding, like, sweat wrist armbands on both forearms, man. I wore Cale Sanderson's, the Olympic year, the red, white, and blue ASIC wrestling shoes that he had, man. I was rocking those. I was wearing some silver shorts, dude, and I looked like the Ultimate Warrior. And we go out there and the bell rings, you know, and I get into a wrestling stance, and I just saw this guy look from across the ring. He's like, what in the heck is this kid doing, dude? And he's traditional Muay Thai or kickboxer. He's like ready to go. And I'm literally in a wrestling stance, like just stalking this guy, you know? And I'm like, all right. So I kind of loosen up. I'm moving around. I got my cool wrestling shoes. And I felt like I was like in a ninja movie. I thought I was the Karate Kid. And I leg kicked this guy. I've never done in my life. I'm like, this stuff is too easy, man. You know, I'm like, I just kicked this dude. And I remember I shot a takedown, took him down. He gets back up. And, dude, he kicked me in the mouth. He did like the Diego Sanchez kick when I fought him a decade ago. He did kick me in the mouth, and I took it. I was just like, oh my gosh. I grabbed my lips. I thought he knocked my teeth out, and like my whole mouth just went numb. I was like, okay, wrestling instincts kicked in. I did like this funny front kick. I kicked him in the stomach, and I double-legged him, and we're grappling and rolling around. And cause, dude, I was like, oh, okay, this is a real fight. My brother just said it, and that rang, it rung true, man. These guys kick in the head. So he sweeps me, rolls me over. And in wrestling, we're taught to base up and go to all fours. And I'm right in the corner of my brother and my coaches, Joey Gilbert, Tommy Lee, these guys, John Gorecki, and Danny. And they're yelling, go to your back, roll to your back. I'm like, no way, man. I'm a wrestler, dude. You don't never go to your back. And next thing you know, the guy gets on my back, chokes me out or whatever. And so he, it was cool. We get up, we shook hands. And it was fun. We had a good laugh about it, had some beers. And that's when it clicked again. And I wanted to, I got that old competitive feeling again. I wanted to get back into college and wrestle again. Yeah. And that's when we started training full time. My brother, we would go down to Gilbert's. We would drive an hour and a half from way up north by Fox Lake, Johnsburg area, all the way down to Mokina, Illinois. You know what I mean? Tinley Park area where the Gilbert grappling was originated. So we would do that, and that's where back where it all began, man. A strip club in a cornfield, man.
God, I would pay to see that fight, dude. I don't know if there's footage out there.
Dude, I know there is. My buddy had the old camcorder, so I'm gonna have to have him do some digging, because that thing, everybody needs to see that.
Dude, and we're gonna come back to that and go from that story forward. But before we even got to that, you mentioned something that I found extremely fascinating. After you were done at Harper, you went to Northern Colorado for a year or semester, but then you pretty much lived out of your truck and drove around the country. Were you doing some soul searching, or what was that trip about, and how did you end up in Seattle after that?
So, man, I tell you, you did a great job. You did your research real well, right?
I'm deep, baby. I'm deep.
Man, it's funny you bring that up, because I had wrestled a semester and a half at Harper College. I was coming off my best season ever, and that's when I really developed, learning wrestling. I'm a late bloomer still to this day, and I started to be around awesome wrestlers. Jared Carlin, one of my best buddies. He's one of my, great influences, at a young age. And I went out there to live out there with him at University of Northern Colorado. And he was going to school, and I was just wrestling on attached because I wasn't good enough to be recruited, and I didn't have good enough grades. I wasn't getting academic scholarships, so I was just working, building houses out there. And I was living with Jared for a while, and then I was living out of the back of my truck, man. And
truly living out of your truck.
Yeah, so I had it was a 1991 Chevy S10 Durango. And when I bought the thing, I'm like, wait, I thought Dodge makes Durango, Chevy makes S10s, but it was the only year they made that model. This thing was sweet. It was just a little 4-banger, 6-foot bed, and I put a custom cap on it, and I customized the whole thing. I put curtains in there. decked it all out. And I put a 6-foot mattress in the back. I was literally living out of the back of my truck. I had a little, I had a heater, a space heater in there, and I would just run an electric cord because the cigarette lighter didn't work where I would be able to plug it in there. So I would have a 20 or 30-foot extension cord, and I would just drive around. I would stay behind hotels. I would stay in alleys wherever I could find an outlet. Because it was Colorado, and it was January, February, March. I was out there doing that for months and months, man. So it was winter time, I was borrowing electricity from people, man. And so yeah, that's where it all began. And I began the trek from Denver, from Greeley, Colorado, out to Seattle because I knew I needed to make some big money fast if I wanted to get back into college. If I wanted to wrestle at UNC Greeley, that was my dream. So I'm like, okay, I heard about this gnarly fishing stuff, so I applied for all these jobs, by mail, but didn't get anything in return. You know what I mean? I didn't, I sent in my, my resume, if you will, but never got any reply. So I'm like, you know what? And I called these companies over and over and nothing. They're like, we need to see you in here in person because we need to know that all your limbs work. We need to see you're an able-bodied individual. So I was like, all right, what left to do than just drive out there physically and do it? You know what I mean? I didn't have the money for a flight. I'm like, dude, let's just make a trip out of this thing. So I literally drove halfway across the country with no driver's license at the time. You know what I mean? I was going through a little rough patch, and went out there, parked right by the Space Needle and literally a block away from it. And I pulled out my list of companies I had already had, on this list. And the first one, FCA, stood for the Fishing Company of Alaska. So I'm looking at the address. I'm looking where I'm at. I had my map back when people used maps. This was even before MapQuest. I had my big old fold out atlas, and I'm like, oh, cool. I'm a block away. Fishing Company of Alaska. It's like literally a block from the Space Needle, and I was just relieved to get there. I walked over to the place, went up to the 21st floor, Fishing Company of Alaska on the little elevator thing, and boom, the elevator door opens. The recruiter, Brian, John, I can't remember his last name. But yeah, I remember first name was Brian. He was over in office 6, and sat me down. And he goes, all right, well, young man, he's like, I don't know how long, you want to be around Seattle for, but right now there's no openings. You know what I mean? So it's going to be for about 2 weeks. So if you can stick around for a couple of weeks, we might be able to get you out on a boat. And then he gets a phone call. He's like, hold on, I'll be right back. He comes back 5 minutes later. And at that time, all I had was like $1,300 to my name. I had just got my tax return. And I was like, man, I wonder if I can stretch this out. I'm going to have to. You know what I mean? That was the plan, to live out of my truck and just, wait till a spot open on one of these boats. So he comes back in. He's like, how long did you say? He's like, when did you say you're ready to start? I'm like, dude, I'm ready to go right now. Let's do this. He's like, all right, you're not going to believe this. He's like, I just got a phone call from our most profitable vessel, the Alaska Juris. 2 guys are over it. One wimped out. He misses his family. The other one got injured. So we're sending them home on the next ship. They're on their way back. He's like, you go down the road to this clinic, you pass this urinalysis, and you'll be on a flight tomorrow down to Dutch Harbor, and you'll be setting out to what you came out here to do, man. And I'm like, let's do this. Sign me up, man. So,
oh my God. And at that point, your goal was just to raise enough money to get back into school and get back on the wrestling team, right? That was your goal at that point?
Yep. I was basically a walk-on. Yeah. I wanted to get back and continue my quest to be the best in wrestling and wrestle in college. You know what I mean? It was always my dream to go to a 4-year school and to compete on a division, a good wrestling program. And I heard about the money these guys were making. I heard they were making anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month. I'm like, oh, that's plenty. You know what I mean? Just to get me at least my first semester's tuition paid. And next thing you know, I'm the next day, I got a flight from Seattle. So then I called my parents. Next thing you know, I'm in the Aleutian Islands. I'm down in Dutch Harbor, where the show The Deadliest Catch is filmed. You know what I mean? And this was pre-Deadliest Catch, reality TV show, man. Or at least that one.
Yeah.
So I call my parents. I'm like, hey, guys, well, guess where I'm at? They're like, they're thinking I was still in Seattle. They're like, yeah, hopefully in Seattle still. I'm like, nope, I'm in Dutch Harbor, down in the Aleutian Islands. They're like, what? You got the job? I'm like, yeah. We're getting on a boat tomorrow, and we're shipping out for 3 months because each contract is a 3-month contract. If you don't fulfill that contract or finish a trip, you have to stay in your little bunk. You have to stay in your dorm with no pay. All you can do is eat. You can go grab your food, and you're not even allowed to hang out in the galley. Nobody wants to see you. These dudes are as hardcore as it gets. Like, these dudes are ball busters. So you get to go eat back up in your place, and then they take the money out of they don't pay for your flight back. So whatever you have, they take it out of your paycheck at that time. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was pumped, man. We were ready to rock and roll. The next day, got on the ship, and we start steaming off. We're heading out like in the middle of Bering Sea, almost to Russia. And remember, it was I was one of the three youngest kids on there. I had just turned 21, and there was another 20-year-old, another 21-year-old, and the three of us, we were the new recruits. We were the green guys, and our faces were green to match. I was seasick for 48 hours for 2 days straight. I had never felt anything like that in my life. I was absolutely miserable. And I've been seasick before because I've been out deep sea fishing, and it goes away after a few hours. It goes away once you're back at the dock. But we're out there, and we're in some treacherous waves on our steam out there, man. And I couldn't eat for days. Hours went by, and it felt like months. I was like, man, I was literally contemplating jumping overboard and swimming back.
Did you ever? I was gonna say, did you ever think about throwing in the towel?
Dude, I thought about if I'm going to be sick like this every day, how am I going to function? How am I going to work? You know what I mean? And then just like that, I just thought about wrestling. What would I do in this point? And it's like when you're going into any match, when you're going into that dogfight that blood round, when you're going to a third place match, maybe get downstate or whatever it is. That's what my mind just came back to wrestling always. And I literally just talked myself out of it. And all these dudes, all like the veterans on the, on the ship, they're walking by and they're doing the sound effects, you know what I mean? The throw up, the vomiting sound. So, and then I would literally run right to the bathroom and throw up. I would grab a bucket, grab a garbage can, throw up right there. Anything I ate, the captain would come in. They only had one doctor on the boat. They would cruise by, here, eat these crackers, you have this Dramamine, all this stuff they gave me, drink this water. It would just come right up, man, But I literally had to talk myself out of it, and then just like that, you know what I mean? A couple hours later, I was fine. I slept it off, and once we got out there, we went to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 months straight. No days off, no nothing, man. And
really,
I tell you what, when you talk about hard work, the TV show doesn't do it any justice, man. It really doesn't. And it makes stepping in the cage feel like a day at the kiddie pool. It really prepared me for life. It prepared me, for anything I've seen in the cage. And you guys know we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And, the sport of wrestling and being on that fishing boat, that experience at a young age of 21 really, really matured me quickly and got me ready for anything in life and anything in the cage.
Don't you kind of look back and think, dude, that was kind of like your rite of passage trip? Like every 18-year-old male needs to do it, female too, whatever it is, military, but that was just your path, and you had to come. It's like this great adventure, and you had to overcome all these obstacles, and finally get on the boat, and then it changes your life. What I've always wondered this, because my buddy did this Alaskan fishing trip too. What is the day-to-day like?
Tell you what, that factory runs 24/7, and when your sleep shift is over, we're in little dorms. We're smaller than dorms, you know what I mean? Because there were just these little rooms, and there was 2 sets of bunks. And one of my first roommates, his name was Apiza, and he's a huge Tongan guy, huge Samoan guy, about 295 pounds, big old jack dude. And he was on the bottom. I was on the top bunk, And on the other side was the other new recruit, this kid Adam, great kid. And then another Hispanic guy was on the top bunk. And it's close quarters. And a couple of us, Adam and I had the same shift. We were lucky, so we got the 2 newbies, got to be on the same one, But anyway, yeah, whatever time it is, it could be 6 in the morning. It could be because it runs every, you do 12-hour shifts. You work 12 hours on, 6 hours off, 12 on, 6 off, basically 20 hours a day. You know what I mean? By the time you eat, sleep, shower, whatever. So anyway, when you would get woken up, it would be to my roommate Apiza, because he was on the next sleep shift. He would shake me, wake up, son of a gun, get up, it's time to go. And I was like, whoa, dude, holy, chill out, man. And it's this big, fun, friendly Samoan guy, but they got these huge beards. They're super cool, man, and they're the ones that really ran the boat. It was the Japanese guys and the Samoans. They taught us everything. It was their boat, and they were like the foremans. You know what I mean? The Japanese guys owned it. They were the fish masters, and there was the captain, and then the Samoans. They were the foremans. They were the journeymen in there. In the fish factory, showing everything, how to how to sort the fish, how to cut the heads, how to freeze them, how to process them, everything, how to put them down in the chute. You know what I mean? So that was it. That was how the day started. Whatever it would be, 6 a.m., 6 p.m., midnight, whatever. Boom, wake up. So boom, first thing you wake up, brush your teeth, you go right to the galley, you eat, because you're going to be working for the next 12 hours, and you don't get a break except for 6 hours. Then you get a half hour to eat in the galley. And when you're in this galley, mind you, and that was one of the coolest things about it was the chef. We had 2 chefs, and they worked around the clock as well. These guys, we ate like kings out there, man. Anywhere from obviously Alaskan king crab to flank steaks, you know what I mean, to ribeyes, the best. You can have breakfast whenever you want. I remember all the Samoans, these guys would come in, hey, Mike was one of the chefs, let me get 6 eggs over easy. I was like, hey, what? These guys eat like horses, man. Yeah, every day. He's my roommate. He would order 6 eggs. He would get a stack of toast this big. I mean, chocolate milk, you name it. So that was one thing. Yeah, they treated us. We ate like kings, and it was just it was super special. When we would be going through some of these storms, man, you're in the galley, and I remember being at the table eating, and you would have this big tray of condiments. And when we would be in one of those gnarly storms, and you're looking out the porthole right there, sometimes you would see the water. It would be like up like this, and you would think it's coming over the top of the ship, and then the wave would go down, and then you would see nothing, like you were falling off of the edge of the earth. And we were in 30 and 40 foot crashing waves sometimes, Rhino. And then there would be days, it would be like whatever the most calm lake is by you in the morning, 5 or 6 a.m. when there's not a ripple. It was just the wildest weather you've ever seen. But yeah, it was funny. Sometimes you'd be doing that. You'd be eating your breakfast. I'd have my French toast was one of my go-tos ever since I was little. And a big old wave would come, and you would lift your tray because the condiments would go down this where they would slide along the galley table back and forth. And everyone would just pick their stuff up and then go right back to eating. And then you would just go right down into the fish factory. And the smell when I got on that boat, that was pretty much the beginning of when I started vomiting, man. I first got on, I was like, oh my gosh. Because immediately you're shin deep in fish guts, fish eggs, fish heads, and it's just filthy. And there's just water everywhere because there's hoses just to keep everything,
right,
wet and moving around. You know what I mean? Because we're working with conveyor belts, with saws. Everything needs to be watered down. And so yeah, the smell is disgusting. It takes you about a few days to get over it, and then you're just used to it. And then everybody there smokes. Me and the 2 guys the 2 kids were the only ones that didn't smoke. I mean, every one of these guys, and they got their cool little homemade cigarette hanging things because we're wearing rubber gloves everywhere. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
For safety purposes, and it's freezing cold. And not to mention, it's 0 or like 5 or 10 below in there. It's freezing.
Even in the summer?
Ice cold. Oh, it was cold out there, man.
Fuck.
Yeah, and I was there in spring. You know what I mean? I started.
Okay.
I was there in February, March, April, until the summer. So we got the cold seasons, man. And these guys are just sitting there smoking next to you. The smoke's blowing in your face the whole time for 12, 18, 20 hours a day. It's like enough is enough, man.
Dude, you're not kidding though. Like, you did that for a couple months, but there are dudes who do that their whole life, and like those are some hard dudes, you know. You talk about some of the toughest dudes, super intelligent. There's no quit in them. These guys, and a lot of them have families at home. That's what my thing was. I was like, how do you guys? They would show me pictures of their family, and these guys would be gone for 6-8 months at a time. You know what I mean? It's almost, to me, I kind of compare it to almost like a military family or military background. You know? Yeah.
But, yeah, learned a lot on that boat. A lot of great life experiences, man. It toughened me up for the road ahead.
And then so you go watch your brother fight. You fight. You said Joey Gilbert's one of your heroes, and for folks outside of Illinois, you mentioned it, but he was the first 4-time state champ and 2A, which is the big division in Illinois history. Yep. Went on to Michigan, multiple-time All-American there, had some battles with Tom Brands. What do you take away from your time with Joey Gilbert, and what were some of the biggest lessons he imparted on you?
Oh, man, Gilbert grappling, Joey Gilbert, Danny Gilbert, 2 of the greatest to start the Midwest, to start the Illinois MMA scene. You know, without them, we wouldn't be doing this interview right now.
You really believe that?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Wow.
And it's funny how my brother heard about Gilbert grappling. He was sitting at a bar one night after work and hanging out with Lindsey Durlocker, the late, great Lindsey Durlocker, man. Rest in peace, one of my heroes as well, man. And they were just sitting there having a cold one, and my brother Jason just always loved to scrap, and Lindsey and Joey were buddies, you know, and he's like, yeah, you know, Joey Gilbert got this fight club down in Mokina, Tinley Park, kind of Orland Park, where they're from. My brother's like, no way. At the time, my brother was driving this bag. He loves to hunt, so he literally had a camouflage conversion van, a hunting van, and he would drive it back and forth from the job site down to Mokina, Illinois. And they thought it was nuts. They're like, holy shit, who is this guy? My brother was, 220 pounds. He was like the biggest guy on the team. They're like, we love this guy, Jason Guida. And so Jay's the one that kind of he heard about it through Lindsay, and he started going down there, and he loved it, man. And but yeah, you talk about a pedigree of amazing wrestlers down there: Joey, Danny, Tommy Lee, Jay Buck. You know what I mean? Russell Mount Carmel. Just the list goes on and on. The BB's trained down there. The Giglio brothers. I mean, it was just there were so many studs that came, through Gilbert Grappling. The Murphys, Matt Kukla. I could go down the list, but they were the ones that really started it off. And the Gilbert brothers, they would fight at Hook and Shoot, which was an organization in Southern Indiana. They fought at MFC. Joey Gilbert, he fought BJ Penn in his
did he?
UFC both of their UFC debut, man. How about that? That was BJ's first professional fight, was in the UFC, and that Joey had a few fights, and they brought him in to fight BJ, man. So how cool is that he got to fight him at the beginning of his career, and I got to avenge one for Joey last year.
Dude,
and BJ's one of our hit favorites too, man. But it just shows you how our career in wrestling it comes full circle, and it started right there in that wrestling. It wasn't even a wrestling room. Basically, what Gilbert Grappling was when I got there, it was a warehouse. It was an overhead garage door, not even a warehouse. It was basically a garage. And dude, there was steel studs coming through the drywall, busted drywall, and there was metal studs coming through. My brother cut his arm when he was brawling with Mark Miller. They were grappling, literally sliced his arm wide open in the middle of practice Wednesday. He had to fight Saturday. We had to fight in the XFO. It was just you could see it was a home of hard work. That's all it was. Nothing fancy. There was one heavy bag that at the beginning of practice, I would see Jay Buck go and just kick and punch this thing in half, you know what I mean, until the chains popped, and it would just be dangling by one chain instead of three. And we would just go for hours and hours at a time. I was lucky enough to be able to, wrestle and grapple with guys like Tommy Lee. I got to see him win a state title. I got to see him compete downstate. One of the first couple months I was there, Joey had a stack of CDs, and we're both into punk rock. He gave me a couple of those, and he had a stack of VHS tapes. Dude, forget that. The coolest thing is he had his 4 state title brackets right there in the wrestling room. And when I walked in and saw those, I was just like, man, that just gets me fired up. He had them in the practice room with us, and that I tell you what, you talk about just ready to do anything, ready to run through a fire, run through a brick wall. But then he had his VHS tapes, and he's like, "Hey, Clay, you spoke to Joe. I'm sure you know his voice. He's like, "Hey, I want you to take these home, and these are all the state titles on a VHS tape." I got to literally watch his state titles because I was too young. I still was, I was just a young boy at the time when he was wrestling the state finals. So I got to go, watch all the state matches on VHS. And that's at the time there was DVDs out already, but it was cool. Yeah. I still had the old VHS player. I was pumped, man. And that really, really just got me completely secluded in MMA and wrestling again. So that was the beginning, man. Joey, and they were in my corner for a long part of my. They're always in my career, but they were in my corner for the longest time too. And they were at the Hall of Fame induction, Hall of Fame fights. They've been there. We've traveled the world together, man. We're very blessed, for Gilbert Grappling.
Yeah, you meant. I mean, that's just so cool that it. Just I always think life is just this random occurrence of events that looks like a straight path looking back, but at the time. You go to this strip club, you fight, your brother just happens to be working out with one of the great grapplers in Illinois history. And then so you get in the gym and you just go nuts. You love it. I think you go like 3-3, then you go on a 15 fight win streak. How the hell did you fight 15 times over like a year and a half like that, dude?
Dude, I tell you what, my brother and I, we were just like this, man. We loved doing construction, but it wasn't what we were set on this earth to do. You know what I mean? My brother was a union mason, brick and mortar guy. And, a paver, and I was, a union carpenter. And yeah, it's a great, honest day's worth of work. I love it. Don't get me wrong. We love working with our hands, but wrestling, sports, that's what we were put on this earth to do. You know what I mean? And we knew if we wanted to do this real professionally, make money at it and keep doing it at the highest level, we had to fast track our way, to the big show. And that's all I knew. get in there, take these guys down, ground and pound them, choke them out. Get in there, take them down, ground and pound them, choke them out. You know what I mean? So I went on a tear. I think Danny Gilbert told me at one point I either had the most submissions and the most fights in the world in a year, in like, I don't know, 15 or 16 months or something like that. You know what I mean? It was unheard of for people to fight that often. And I would go back to Harper College because here's how our day would look. Since you asked about the Alaska day, here's how a day of mine and my brother's life would look at that time when we were both working construction and fighting part-time, full-time, whatever, because we would get up 4:30 in the morning and he would head off to work because we were living together for a little while. He would head to his union mason job and I would head to Schaumburg. I just was working on one of my first, just got in the union. It was pretty sweet. My dad's best buddy, he's like, Clay, if you want to do this, you might as well have some, something behind you as well. You know what I mean? The Chicago Carpenters Union has been a huge, huge support system for us for years, man. So I followed his path and, got all the benefits and everything. And to this day, we're still in the Chicago Carpenters Union, even though, we don't have to, we get to swing these hammers now, So it's pretty sweet. But yeah, so 4:30 in the morning, we'd be up out the door, man. And, I still had the little black truck and I drove that thing back. I finally got my driver's license back. Like things were going very, very well.
Let's go.
Reinstated. I'm like, dude, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to build homes for people to live in by day. And I was supposed to get in the cage and wrestle and kick people's butt by night. You know what I mean? And so I still had the Chevy S10 Durango and I would get there early because I like to sleep. So I would be the first one at the job site when it was still dark. Whether it was Elgin or Schaumburg, that's where the first couple of jobs were. Then when I got into the union, and I would sleep in the back of my truck for a good half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and all of a sudden I'd hear the knock on it. Boom, that'd be one of my working buddies. Hey guys, let's go, let's roll out. The foreman would roll up, bust out the van doors, and we would start rolling out, setting the compressors, hoses up, and boom, we would go to work. Work till 3 o'clock. So right from there, my brother and I, we would go meet at Harper College because it was wrestling season. So we would go from working, 8 hours in, Midwest summers, I'd be running around on the roof where it'd be almost 100 degrees, or the Midwest Chicago winters, man, where it'd be 5, 10, 15 below. So after busting ass all day on the job, right to Harper, go wrestle with the team for an hour, work out with those guys, Mike Kelly, all those dudes over there, Dan Loprino, guys that got me going, you know what I mean? One of my teammates I was out with the other night, Chris Gonzalez, he wrestled there. He was on the senior Greco team, world team member. He was at Harper as well. So yeah, I would wrestle with all of those guys, and then we would head from there in Schaumburg or Palatine. We would head down to Mokina and go work out at Gilbert Grappling for 2 hours, and that's what we did every 4 or 5 days a week, and over and over. And I remember I got a bunch of fights under my belt, and I had just fought at the Cicero Stadium, and this is back where the Concordia Theater in Cicero. This is back where the Chicago Bulls used to have. That's where their practice facility was back in like the 70s or something. Okay. Long before the Jordan did. So I got to fight there. Andrei Arlovsky was in the crowd. I had just choked out this badass wrestler. He wrestled for Southern Illinois Edwardsville, Alex Martinez or something. He was super tough, man. I choked him out. I did a backflip off the top of the cage on Bob Shermer's Combat Dough is the organization. And so that was on a Saturday. And then right back, work started again. So on a Wednesday, I was heading into Harper. I remember I had my phone on me. I was going to the practice room, got a call from my manager at the time, John Gorecki. He's like, hey, bud, you want to fight this weekend? I'm like, absolutely. He's like, that's why you called, right? He's like, yeah, for sure. He's like, you want to fight in the tournament? I'm like, absolutely. He's like, cool. This one's big bucks now. I'm like, all right, cool. Tell me what you got. He's like, here's the only thing. He's like, it's big bucks, $600, $300 per fight. I'm like, at the time, I was like, that was huge money. I was only making a couple $100 a fight. I was like, oh, this is sweet. And he's like, here's the only thing. It's the fight's on Friday. It was Wednesday night. I'm like, oh, and he's like, it's in Des Moines, Iowa. He's like, so you have to drive out there, but here's the deal. They're going to give you a 5-pound allowance. It's a short notice, and you get to pick your opponent. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, cool. Hit my brother, hit my buddy. We get the minivan. I'm like, yo, we're fighting our first tournament, man. Let's go. We drive out to Des Moines. We get there. And I was still, just like I am today, a little 55er. So I got there. I was 156. And I see these other guys weighing. They're all overweight. They all blow weight, dude. They're all like closer to 170. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. So it was the hometown guy. This kid's name, he fought in the UFC. He was actually one of Jose Aldo's first fights. Chris. His middle name is MFing Mickle, Chris Mickle. He was a stud. He was a really good wrestler too, man. He was like their Iowa stud wrestler, tough dude, hometown hero. And So yeah, he blew weight. These other dudes blew weight. And then they don't even let me pick who I was going to fight. So I ended up, of course, fighting the hometown guy, Chris Mickle. And I just put it on this dude, man, for 15 minutes. And he was just one of those guys who would not – he was like a meth head almost, man. I was pounding this guy's head, ground pounding. I was sitting in his guard doing like these literally like hammer Tarzan punches, and his head was bouncing off of the canvas, and he would not go out. The ref wouldn't stop it. I'm like punching this guy over and over with like – no reaction. I'm like, yo, ref, this dude's not there, man. He's like, just let him fight. And anyway, got my hand raised, got the decision, and then ended up fighting this other dude. Yeah, this other savage from Denver. This kid was super tough. He fought in the UFC for a while as well. Alex Rodriguez or something. He was super tough, man. Way bigger than me, big old chiseled up Hispanic guy. And it was a 5-rounder. And this dude was taking it to me. And that's when I was like, okay, this is a real matchup. And the third round started, and he was bigger than me. I saw he was maybe kind of slowing down a little bit, man. And everyone knows we're the cardio king.
Let's go.
We get in there and throw down with anybody. And I just lit one up down the middle. I threw a cross, and I don't really throw my cross a whole lot. I hit this dude right on the button. He does this. Wipes it off like that, and I was like, "Oh no!" So I was like, "Oh, this dude is good. He's got a jaw on him," because I just threw everything into this, And so then my next instinct, I do the old Goldberg double leg spear him in the gut, and I just hear the wind go out of him. I just heard, like I literally knocked the wind out of him. He rolled over. I choked him out, man. And I remember climbing that cage and just putting my hands up. And this thought went through my head. And I was on like 11. At that time, I was like on 11 fights in a row. And I thought to myself, we're doing this full time. I'm gonna be damn good at this, because at the time it was still focus on work, work always. You know what I mean? Wrestle, compete on the side. You know what I mean? Establish yourself, then we can do this. But once I did that and I beat a guy that I didn't know I was gonna really beat that dude. You know what I mean? Because he was really he was rag down on me, man. He was kneeing me. I remember I had welts and lumps for days after that. But and it was cool because the whole crowd had changed too. It almost felt like a little bit of Rocky, which has been similar in several of my fights, when they brought me in to be a tomato can. But it was all the Des Moines, Iowa fans booing me at first against their hometown guy. And then the fight in the main event, in the title fight, they were all cheering for me. So that really helped a lot, escalate me. And then, we went on a tear from there, man. And we had the most wins or fights or submissions in a year in the entire mixed martial arts world.
Dude, that's crazy that you were you're just like such a crazy guy in the sense that, and I empathize with that. Like, if you're going to do it, you're going all in. You're like, yeah, why wouldn't we fight every weekend?
We go both feet in, man. Hands,
right.
Everything on.
Now you still have that mental image or that mental picture though of after that fight when you decided that was going to be your vocation at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was still learning the trades. I was an apprentice in the Chicago Carpenters Union, and I enjoyed it. I was learning that, and I knew that it's always going to be something that it's good to have in your back pocket.
Right.
You know what I mean? But fighting was what my brother and I wanted to do. You know what I mean? That's all we ate, slept, and breathed, wrestling and fighting. And that was really, I think, the turning point of when I expected to win, because kind of going back to my early ages in wrestling, I didn't expect to win a lot of matches. I would get intimidated by some of these guys. I would see them walking mat side. And I started wrestling, doing intramurals when I was in first grade. So however old you are in first grade, I think maybe around 6, you know what I mean? So I started with intramural wrestling tournaments. We would go down, and then we started doing summer tournaments. I would go with my brother because he would wrestle, and my parents would take us to the good old Morris Classic down to the home of John Durgo, one of my favorites, man, Johnny D. So we would go there, you know what I mean? And I was, 50 pounds, and I would go out there and I would get my butt kicked, and I'd have a hard time with it. And then we would go to the Outdoor Classic. I don't know if you remember that one. Glenbard, Carroll Stream. Yeah, Glenbard North, home of Tony Ramos, man. It was an outdoor summer tournament. It was middle of June, and I wrestled. I finally made the finals. I was like 60-something pounds. I finally made the finals, man, and took me a long time. So countless tournaments where I would just get these stupid little medals, man. But made the finals, and we had to wrestle on a black mat, and it was so hot they would have people coming up and literally dumping buckets of water either while you were wrestling or when you had that quick break after the round was over, after the period was over. And I'm on this pitch black mat, and third period begins, and I'm losing by a couple, and my feet go right out from underneath me. They go flying there. I land on my back. I turn over, the guy sticks me, you know what I mean? But I was just pumped about it to finally, be in the finals for my first time at a young age. And I just got discouraged, because wrestling can be tough
Yeah.
throughout the whole length of it, but definitely at a young age, it can be very, very intimidating, and that's so that's kind of back where it all began. I used to wrestle for Richmond Wrestling Club.
Yeah.
The great Jordan Blanton, and the Davison, one of my best buddies, Billy, and his parents started that program. And then from there, I went on to wrestle at Lakeland Wrestling Club, or Daniel Dennis, Jimmy Kennedy, the McNevich brothers, the Reyes brothers. They were all wrestling. So it was really cool to be part of those Northern Illinois local clubs. That had a lot of success, and that's what groomed me, at a young age.
How did you meet? Obviously, wrestling is a big part of your life. How did you meet Israel Martinez, and what's that relationship been like for you?
That's funny because that actually started. I wrestled Nathan Martinez, who has been a huge influence in my career. I wrestled Nathan my sophomore year at the Harvard Open, the Harvard Christmas Classic, man. And obviously he was ranked, top 1 or 2 in state, and he put it on me. I got to the third period. He had already teched everybody, and we were wrestling. Think of it as the quarters or something like that. But he had already teched everybody in the tournament. So I made it to the third period. Then he turned and stuffed me. But I was always intrigued by watching Israel and Nathan wrestle. You know what I mean? Because Izzy, I was heavier than him at a young age when we were in IKWF.
Mm-hmm.
And Nate was another grade older. You know what I mean? So different divisions. But everybody turned up to watch those guys. Everyone would be there mat side, watching those guys, or up in the bleachers. They were unreal, man. Those guys were just mat wizards. So yeah, the Martinez family has been such a huge influence in my career. And I bumped into Izzy. We wrestled. Oh yeah. So I forgot Harper College. I was lucky enough to Nate was my teammate, man. That's when I really learned the fundamentals. Nate was a 57 pounder. I was a 49 pounder. Started at the Harper, and to be able to wrestle with Nathan Martinez and drill with him every single day, and him to slow things down for me and just break it down, and everything, every little bit of it, man, was I was very blessed to have that, And
so you met Nathan first, and then you just met Israel naturally through that,
correct, yeah. So we were teammates. I met Izzy at a young age, you know what I mean. But
right.
Nate and I were on the same team at Harper, you know what I mean. And I tell you what, Coach Dan Loprino, Harper College has had such a great program for so many years. And when I walked into that room, my best buddy Jared Carlin and I, Wes Anderson, my brother Jason, we were all on the team. And Jared was a runner-up. He just he had a tough one. I lost to his brother Andy Hyatt in I made the state finals my 8th grade year, and I lost to Andy. I lost to Sam Hyatt, and my best buddy Jared lost to Andy Hyatt after beating him multiple times throughout the season. And I really think that is what propelled us to continue on in the sport of wrestling and in our lives and want to do such great things. You know what I mean? We're both business owners now.
Yeah.
We got great families, and I'm so excited that. Looking back, like, what are the chances? Jared and I were born on the same day, three blocks apart in Round Lake, Illinois. And Jared's a super, super high-level wrestler. He was a runner-up in Greco, runner-up in freestyle, at Fargo. And the fact that, we both lost to we lost to brothers. It was like, this is just the craziest thing ever. What is the chances that we were teammates? We lived together in Greeley. And the way that Dan Loprino was able to put that team together and have so many, not just state qualifiers, state places, but countless state champs in that little tiny sweaty wrestling room of Harper College, man. You talk about guys that would just come out and they would start their career there, or they would come back from other programs and go there, you know what I mean? Which is kind of how I met Nate, how I met Israel, and started working out with those guys. And then Israel and I, we became real close, and Nate and I, we all, they invited me, and I was honored to be, part of, work is you style wrestling, help coach Aaron on staff once he got the job at Montini. And man, those to learn from guys like their old man Jose and what they have done for the sport of wrestling in the state of Illinois, it's unprecedented. You know what I mean? And Izzy eats, sleeps, and breathes wrestling, and Nate does. It's you see them everywhere all the time, and all they want to do is help these kids and watch them get to that next level that maybe they weren't capable of doing at that age. And you've seen the fruits of their labor. You've seen what these kids have done. Not just statewide, but nationally and internationally. They've got world champs. They've got national champs, countless. The state champion, the brackets go, they're countless, man.
Unbelievable. Now, let me ask you, because you were in the Montini room, is it true that Real Woods might be a better fighter than he is a wrestler?
Absolutely, man. I tell you what, Real Woods, anything this kid touches turns to gold, man.
I heard Izzy called Dana White and he's like, hey, he's about to go to Stanford, but you should be getting him in because he's an animal fighter. You know? I'm like, no way.
Real, my boy Real, man. We met him at a young age, and he was living in the hood. He's a special story, living in the hood. And Izzy met him, found him in Albuquerque, and brought him and his dad, Ray Woods, great friends of ours, out to Jackson Winklejohn. Izzy would come out there and train with me and coach me out there. And he started him at a young age. I want to say Real was 8 or 10 years old, just this little tiny dude, but he would always show up to practice with his dad, and he would always bring a buddy that he had to drill, he could partner with, you know what I mean? And this kid didn't miss a practice. And look at him now. I mean, look at what he's done.
Stanford.
And that, exactly. Just forget just the titles. Yeah, the academics, what he's done for his family. He's fulfilled his dream, and he's going to continue to. And he's going to be at the fight. Him and his old man are coming out to fight in Vegas July 20th. I spoke to them the other day, June 20th. So they're pumped to be out there. I can't wait to see those guys. So, yeah, the NCAA, the 41s better watch out for Real Woods. And the mixed martial arts world better watch out for Real Woods, man, because he is the truth.
Dude, it was right there with Pletcher, push him to the line early in the season. Man, I was really excited for him. Man.
Absolutely. You talk about a match where Pletcher probably had to go back to the drawing boards and think, whoa, boy, this whole season, I got to rethink things and, and watch out for some of these guys, So probably, I'll tell you what, it played a Pletcher too.
For sure. No, 2 things before we let you go. The last is, how did wrestling change your life? So that's coming. But the other thing is, you're wearing the shirt now, Grills and Thrills. What is this company, and how can folks get in touch with you if they want to do something? Because it seems like a pretty awesome gig given your experience fishing.
I appreciate you bringing that up, man, and plugging it. I teamed up with one of my friends and former opponents, Chad Mendez, Chad Money Mendez, who was an NCAA finalist, who has some of the most prolific fights in MMA history in the 145-pound division.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Against the Jose Aldos, the McGregors, knockouts of the year. The guy's just a savage.
That McGregor fight to this day is one of my favorites. He took that on such short notice. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I forgot about that fight.
Yeah, it's funny because I was out fishing in Oswego. As a matter of fact, I was on one of these private quarries out there fishing, and I'm just smashing these bass left and right. Just these things are just screaming off the reel, man. I was just crushing them left and right. So I FaceTime Chad. I hit him up, call him like, "Yo, bud, dude, I got this. You got to come out to Illinois. I got to get you on this quarry, man, because I'm just crushing him out here. Maybe you can, because he's got his company, Fins and Feathers." Guide service. I'm like, maybe you can set one up out here. You bring a couple of clients out on the boat on the kayak. And he's like, dude, that sounds awesome. I'm showing him these pictures. And he's like, yo, hold on. The UFC's calling me, dude. He's like, let me get back to you. He calls me back 5 minutes later. He's like, dude, we just got the call. We're fighting Conor McGregor in 2 weeks. I got to go to the gym right now because he was out hunting. I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I was there. I was on the phone when he got the call, man. Anyway, it was fast forwarding. I had seen what Chad's doing. I know his passion is hunting and fishing, man. And I'm always fishing. It's one of my favorite things to do besides coaching wrestling, competing, and going going to festivals and going to sporting events. So I figured, man, what can I do to kind of transition? Once I'm done competing, what's next? And I figured I love to fish. I love to go to sporting events. I love to go to music festivals. I love being around my fans. I love being around people. You know what I mean? That we have like-minded people in business and in sports and fishing, whatever. I'm like, why don't we start this little fishing entertainment guide service? So I got a hold of Chad and our business partner, Mike Papa. I was like, dudes, I don't know if you guys could help guide me on this, but I think I got a pretty cool concept for a business idea. I want to put a little twist on the fishing guide service, and I want to take our clients one step further. And after we take them fishing all day, we take them to a Cubs game. We take them to a Bears game. We take them to a UFC event. We take them to a wrestling event. We take them to a music festival. We take them to a concert and hang out with them for a night and really get to create that environment, for fans, because they don't get to really interact a whole lot with, some of their heroes or whatever you want, or some of their icons or some of their idols, favorite fighters, whatever you want to call it. So I appreciate them so much. I would love to, I want to spend time with them and learn from them, teach them some fishing, go out, have a good time, and then, go watch a fight, get them cage side, go take them, like I said, to Wrigley. They'll take anywhere in the country, man, wherever there's sports, wherever there's fishing, wherever there's music, coast to coast, man, we want to hit it, and we want to show our clients and our fan base a good time. So that's kind of where the concept Gills and Thrills with Guida came from.
Dude, every picture I see, it looks like you guys are just having the best time out there.
Yeah, it really is, man. we're very blessed to have such an awesome fan base. And that's why I always say wrestling and mixed martial arts have the most loyal fans ever. And to be able to have that support from them, and Chad Mendez and Mike Papa at Fins and Feathers. So we've teamed up, and we're growing this thing. And we're going to be locking in more dates here soon for upcoming events in 2020, 2021. And people can check it out, obviously, on Instagram at Gills and Thrills of Guida, and then our websites are linked together. The Fins and Feathers guides and gillsandthrillsofguida.com are linked together. So go check out our pages, look for upcoming events, and it's going to be awesome, guys.
Dude, I'm going to sign up for it. Shit.
No, we're taking you out for sure, my man.
Dude.
There's some great water, not in the Chicago area where you're at, but out west where you're at. There's some beautiful private lakes. You know that, man. I'm sure
Dude,
going up, you guys hit someone.
I just got back from Colorado for a little weekend getaway out in Breckenridge area, Lake Dillon. It's freaking beautiful out there, dude.
Breck is beautiful. That was one of my stops on my trek back home in the S10 Blazer with the busted exhaust. I stopped at the Breckenridge Brewery and got myself a couple of little growlers and stuff to bring home. And Breckenridge is awesome, man. I miss Colorado. I love it out there.
Well, dude, last thing for you. I know you're a busy guy, and there's so many stories I didn't even get a chance to get on, but we'll get it later. We'll do one in the camper. Just give us a couple thoughts on, obviously you're very passionate about wrestling, even though you got into it later. Why the passion, and what kind of foundation has it given you for this incredible life you've built for yourself here?
That's an awesome question. I cannot picture my life without the sport of wrestling. I say this all the time. I wouldn't be in mixed martial arts without wrestling. Wrestling saved my life. Wrestling changed my life. It's changed my family's lives. It puts food on the table. It's taught us, everything, starting, with, obviously you hear this over and over, with commitment, with dedication, there's no such thing as the word quit. It doesn't even ever cross my, my brainwaves. It's helped me in business and family. Every decision I make comes back to wrestling. And I believe truly that it's the greatest catalyst, it's the greatest foundation for mixed martial arts, but I believe it's the greatest foundation for life. And I know countless wrestlers that are CEOs, owners of businesses, foremans, in big construction companies, you name it, any facet of life, wrestling fits in there, and it will change your life for the positive, man. In relationships and friendships, family, whatever it may be, it's a special thing, and we're the lucky ones because far less than 1% of the world's population wrestles, and those that do have seen some sort of success in life. You know what I mean? And it's something we hold near and dear to our heart, and we're very blessed to do it. And I'm glad that you started this podcast because we're huge fans, we're huge supporters of it, and it's changed my life, and it's going to continue to as well. And I'm just super excited about what you guys are doing in the sport, and I can't wait to wrestling. It's never going anywhere, but I can't wait to see some competition, man.
Dude.
Man, we're itching for it. Dude, the world needs wrestling. The world needs sports all together, but definitely wrestling.
You and me both, brother. I can't wait to see some matches get back going. I can't wait to watch you fight in a couple weeks. So there's a lot to look forward to. We wish you nothing but the best, sir. Massive, massive fans here in Chicago. My brother and I are. Again, nothing but the best, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Ryan, thank you so much, guys. Wrestling changed my life.
And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text WRESTLE to 555-888. That's WRESTLE to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangedMyLife.com. Take care, y'all. 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 Take care, y'all.